Friday again. Thank you for joining me. Today's reading was Psalms 81 through 85. And what we are seeing here, this is a section of poems written by the sons of Korah and Asphara. They show clear progression. They move from the call of worship, then they go into a section of national crisis, and then we end up finally with this beautiful prayer for revival and restoration. So what we're seeing in Psalms 81 is called to remember and return. Praise begins with a festival celebration, remembering the deliverance from Egypt. God warns against ideology and having like a stubborn heart. And then we see the tragedy of missed blessings. God promises that if his people would simply listen, all you have to do is listen, he would quickly defeat their enemies and feed them with the finest wheat. So in Psalm 82, God judges the judges. Earthly leaders are accountable to almighty authority of God. I want you to think about that. Think about what is going on in our communities and in our state, in our nation, and in our world. And say that piece to yourself. Earthly leaders are accountable to the ultimate authority of God. So just because you are a mayor, just because you're a governor, just because you're a president, just because you're a king here on earth, the buck doesn't stop with you. You're still accountable to God. God takes his place in the heavenly court to judge corrupt human rulers. True leadership demands defending the weak, the poor, the fatherless. That's what we're reading here in Psalms 82. Earthly power is temporary. You're only president for 4 years. You're only governor for 4 years. The King of England, he had to wait till he was 70 some years old before the crown got passed to him. Leaders will die because we're mere mortals, right? If they abuse their authority on earth and don't do it for the good of God, they are going to be judged. In Psalms 83, and we're going to come back to Psalms 83. The core message here is when surrounded by overwhelming enemies, believers find safety by relying on God's past victories. We see here 10 nations form this massive hostile conspiracy to erase Israel. We'll come back to this. Psalms 84. We're longing for God's presence. True joy and strength are found only in a close fellowship with God. We're seeing a deeply longing for the court of the Lord, envying even the birds that nest near the altar. When I read that, it is so beautiful. When you're reading about even the sparrow finds a home and the swallow a nest for herself. Isn't that gorgeous? A powerful perspective shifts. One single day in God's court is better than 1,000 days spent anywhere else. Let me read that again. A powerful perspective shift. One single day in God's court is better than 1,000 days spent anywhere else. Psalm 85. we are seeing this prayer for revival and restoration. Yet again, we're feeling this emotion. This is, it's a prayer for God to restore his people by beautifully blending his justice with his mercy. We begin by remembering how God previously forgave sin and restored the land. A plea for a fresh revival we're seeing here, right? Will you not revive us again, that your people may rejoice in you? We're seeing this ultimate picture of salvation here. Mercy and truth meet, and righteousness and peace kiss each other in this chapter. So I want to go back up before we conclude and we talk about Psalm 83. Because what we're seeing here in Psalm 83 is Israel is facing opposition. They have this massive alliance that is going to come after them, that is hostile. And we're seeing prayers to ask God to replicate his victories from the past for Israel. The ultimate goal of this prayer is evangelical, even, that we're seeing. We're not just asking here to take out the enemy. We're asking God here in this text to humble them, judge them. As Christians, we are taught to, turn the other cheek. But in this reading, we see that it is okay as Christians if we've become upset with the evil in the world. Now, there is a very fine line. This does not mean that we are to take things into our own hands. This doesn't mean that we are to judge. This means that it is okay for us to see wickedness in the world and pray that God handles it. Pray that God has judgment. We pray for our enemies. I do every day. But in this reading, it is saying it is okay to recognize the wickedness. It is okay to ask God to intervene. And while you're reading this chapter, think of the national and world crises that we are in. So when we looked at chapter 81, we're looking, or we're seeing and we're hearing God's voice. Psalm 82, we're seeking justice. Psalm 83 is when we face the opposition, and it's okay to recognize that. And it's okay to be upset about it. But you turn it to God. In Psalm 84, we're finding the intimacy, our relationship with God. And Psalm 85 is about the revival and the restoration. So folks, I hope these chapters helped you this week. I know they did for me. Reread them. They're very short. Reread them. There is so much here. And just like when I was reading Psalm 83, it hit me. It is okay. It is okay that we recognize the evil. It is okay that we ask God to take away the evil. All right, folks. Well, I hope this helps you this week. And I hope that you have great revival and